Imagine a scene ripped from the annals of history, a testament to human endurance against unimaginable horrors, the Great War, a conflict that redefined brutality. Picture a lone soldier, amidst the carnage and chaos, surviving not just one, but an astounding 3 separate poison gas attacks. How could any human being possibly emerge from the choking, agonizing embrace of chemical warfare, not once, but thrice? History is an essential part of our lives. It not only records what has happened, but also serves as a mirror reflecting both the present and the future. By looking into history, we better understand the origins of our values, the lessons learned, and the mistakes humanity has made. Every historical story carries the breath of its era, a mark left by people in the endless flow of time. Now, I invite you to join me in exploring a soldier who survived 3 gas attacks, to truly feel the harshness and brutality of war. The year was 1915. The location, the Ypres salient in Belgium, a name that would forever be synonymous with unimaginable suffering. It was here, on this cursed stretch of land, that poison gas made its terrifying debut, forever altering the very nature of war. A sinister, yellowish-green fog, almost ethereal in its appearance, crept insidiously across the battlefield, a silent predator stalking its unsuspecting prey. Soldiers, young men barely out of their teens, stared in bewildered confusion, completely unaware that their world was about to be irrevocably shattered. Among them stood Arthur Briggs, a 22-year-old British private, a son of Manchester, a metalworker's son, far removed from the halls of power and the machinations of empires. He was no celebrated hero lauded in the newspapers, no decorated commander leading the charge, no figure of legend whispered about in hushed tones. He was simply a working-class lad, thrust into a maelstrom of unimaginable scale, a war that dwarfed anything he could have possibly conceived. The first assault, Ypres, 1915. Arthur was performing his routine trench duty on that fateful afternoon. The wind, an unseen harbinger of doom, began to shift. An unusual, unsettling haze began to drift ominously toward their position. It didn't look dangerous, he would later recall, his voice raspy with the lingering effects of the gas. But the smell, it had a peculiar bite at the back of my throat. Then, the chilling screams erupted, piercing the relative calm. Gas. Gas, lads. Get your masks on. But this was early 1915, a time when the technology of war far outstripped the means of protection. Gas masks were crude, often ineffective, and many soldiers had none at all. In a desperate act of self-preservation, Arthur frantically tore his neck scarf, soaked it in the meager water from his canteen, and pressed it tightly against his face. A rudimentary, desperate measure. Yet, in all likelihood, it saved his life. The chlorine gas, a malevolent force, seared through his lungs, each breath a torment. His eyes felt as though they were being gouged out with red-hot metal. As he collapsed, gasping for air, he was convinced that death was imminent. Many around him succumbed to the deadly fumes. But against all odds, Arthur Briggs somehow clung to life, enduring his first horrifying encounter with poison gas. The second attack, the Somme, 1916. A year had passed, but the war raged on with undiminished ferocity. The Somme, a name that would forever be etched in the collective memory as a symbol of senseless slaughter, had become a desolate wasteland of mud, pulverized earth, and shattered dreams. This time, the Germans unleashed an even more insidious weapon, phosgene, a gas far deadlier than the chlorine he had previously encountered. Arthur, though not fearless, had become acutely aware of the dangers that lurked around every corner. While engaged in the arduous task of hauling ammunition, he heard the piercing wail of the warning siren, a sound that sent shivers down his spine. A gas shell exploded nearby, unleashing a nearly invisible cloud of poison into the air. Arthur instinctively reached for his gas mask, his heart pounding in his chest, only to feel the strap, weakened by wear and tear, snap clean in his hand. He inhaled a lungful of phosgene before he could even attempt to seal the mask against his face. He collapsed instantly, his lungs rapidly filling with fluid, his body convulsing uncontrollably. His comrades, witnessing his horrifying plight, dragged him to a nearby medic station, fully expecting him to be dead by morning. Yet, Miraculously, he survived the night. Doctors, baffled by his resilience, noted that his lungs were severely damaged, yet strangely resilient. No one expected him to ever stand again, let alone return to the fight. But Arthur Briggs, against all logic and reason, lived through his second gas attack. The third attack, Passchendaele, 1917. Passchendaele. The very name evoked images of hell on earth. An unending quagmire of mud, relentless rain, the grotesque sight of bodies sinking into the mire, horses drowning in the trenches. And then, as if the existing horrors weren't enough, another terror descended upon the already beleaguered soldiers: mustard gas. Unlike chlorine, mustard gas was a silent, insidious killer. It didn't glow ominously or move like a visible cloud. It simply seeped silently into the trenches, an invisible threat that offered no warning. Arthur felt a faint sting on his neck. He wiped it away absently, dismissing it as mere rainwater. Moments later, his eyes felt as though they had been struck by a white-hot poker. His skin erupted in agonizing blisters. Breathing became an exercise in excruciating pain. Mustard gas didn't kill swiftly. It destroyed slowly, methodically. Arthur, driven by a primal instinct to survive, crawled out of the trench, his vision almost completely gone. When medics finally found him, they held little hope that he would ever see again. He survived, yes, but his days on the front lines were over. Why did Arthur Briggs survive? Doctors were baffled by his extraordinary resilience. They simply couldn't offer a complete explanation. Some speculated that his body possessed an uncanny ability to recover at an accelerated rate. Others suggested that he possessed a remarkable resistance to the effects of the gas. Still others attributed his survival to sheer luck, a confluence of timing and circumstance. But Arthur himself never claimed to possess any extraordinary qualities. He simply stated, with a quiet humility, "I just kept breathing. That's all a man can do." Arthur returned to England in 1918, carrying with him the invisible scars of war. His vision never fully recovered. His voice remained perpetually hoarse, a constant reminder of the damage inflicted upon his lungs. He developed an aversion to fog, smoke, and even the steam rising from a pot of boiling water, triggers that brought back the terrifying memories of the gas attacks. Trauma, he learned, didn't always manifest as a raging storm. Sometimes, it whispered its insidious presence in the quietest moments. He rarely spoke of his experiences in the trenches, preferring to keep the horrors locked away in the depths of his mind. But neighbors recounted that whenever a morning mist settled on the streets of Manchester, Arthur would stand motionless, his gaze fixed on the swirling vapor, as if listening for a sound, a phantom echo of the gas attacks that had so profoundly shaped his life. Arthur Briggs wasn't a symbol of glorious victory or triumphant conquest. He was a stark and poignant reminder of the human cost of war, of the unimaginable suffering endured by ordinary people caught in the gears of history. If stories like this help you truly feel history, not just passively know about it, then please like and subscribe so we can continue to explore these untold narratives together. And remember, if one ordinary man could somehow survive 3 separate poison gas attacks, what other incredible, forgotten stories are still waiting to be unearthed from the battlefields of the past? We'll begin to uncover them in the episodes to come.